Alright, we'll get started here. Let's see, a bunch of people jumping in, so I'll wait for that to kind of slow down. Alright, so hopefully everyone isn't having too many technical difficulties with working from home. Hopefully this goes smoothly today. So this is our third CAD webinar, and this topic is going to be on advanced templates, specifically dealing with end conditions. So we got, hopefully you guys find some pretty cool stuff that I was going to show you today that hopefully will help a lot of people with their end condition problems. That's typically the area where you have the most trouble with it, as there's so many varying conditions out there. So just some quick overview stuff like normal, just like the previous ones. I guess before I get started, I do want to announce that we actually did finally hire someone in our office, and they started this pay. They were probably one of the last people to get hired before they froze hiring, so felt pretty lucky that we got him in here. His name is Matt Iben, so you guys might start seeing and hearing from him. He comes from the private sector, and I think he has 20 plus years of experience in CAD, so we are very happy to welcome him to the team. So just thought I'd let you guys know before we get started here. So ORD training, the next one we had scheduled, we did end up canceling. I think there was only one person that was signed up anyways, so we did inform the person who was signed up. So these will just be tentative as we move forward with this coronavirus situation here. So we canceled the next one. We'll see about the rest. Another reminder on our wiki page. So this is being recorded. I normally get asked that every time I send out the invite for this. That we do record every one of these, and they will all be posted to our wiki page. So there's a category in our wiki page for CAD webinars. So the previous two are up there, so you can go there and watch those recordings. Our monthly webinar is, as you can see, we're on our third one. Next one is going to be an open topic, unless we don't. So I'll probably ask you guys to kind of email things that you'd like to see us demonstrate or talk about, different workflows or topics. If we don't really get any, then we'll have to pick something to show. But those are the tentative dates. I've been slowly getting the invites out earlier and earlier. It's better than the day before. So the next thing that we also hold is bi-monthly open sessions, which we canceled our next one as well. We did have one back in the beginning of March. We had about around five people come, and I thought it was pretty successful. I think the people that came got a lot out of it. So we do plan on continuing these, but for right now, we're going to not hold them during this coronavirus situation. I will say it is helpful if you guys let us know if you plan on coming beforehand, so we know how many people are coming. I think it was successful because there was a small number. If we would have had a lot of people, there's only so many of us, so there'd be more people waiting around to get help. So it does help if we know if you're planning on coming beforehand or not. So whenever those pick back up, keep that in mind. But the people that did come, I think they thought it was beneficial. And as always, you don't have to wait for these sessions or the training to ask us questions. If you're having problems, or you can contact us. We can always do a screen share, Skype, that can be pretty close to the equivalent of what this open session does. So that's always available to you guys as well. If you're working through a project, you have problems, feel free to contact us. So the last CAD user group meeting, these are our big ones we have in the auditorium, was end of February. Hopefully you guys were able to come to that or watch that live. We did show a lot of good stuff in there. We had a huge topic on SUDA, or what's now called Utilities and Drainage. Bentley changed the name of it. So I did go over a lot of stuff that's coming with changes pertaining to that topic. I showed how to lay out stuff, sheet clipping stuff, what's coming for annotation, for that kind of stuff. So that is recording. It is recorded. I can get you guys the link. If you have the agenda that I sent out, there's a link on the agenda as well. But that we did show a lot of good stuff, so just wanted to mention that. Okay, so moving on to today's topic of end conditions, really. Before we dive into kind of this advanced end condition topic, what I did was I started taking a look at all the end conditions that we have in our template library, and there are a ton of them, a lot of them. And I wanted to kind of make them more consistent. Really, what I wanted to ensure was that if you go from one end condition to another end condition, that everything will connect. Like, so there's the same number of points and components. Now I realize that end conditions can get complicated, so I based off of our L&D, that section 300 shows all of the different gradings. So what I have set up, or what I'm going to show, is an attempt to be consistent so that they all do connect, but there's always going to be those more advanced situations where you're going to need more points and more pieces of components to do what you need to do in that area. So I do understand that, so I'm not saying it's always going to work 100% of the time. I'm saying I'm just trying to get a good starting point, a good setup, so that the stuff connects together. For the most part, a lot of stuff was there. I'll show kind of what the changes are before we get into this this fixed ditched. Or it's really what we're going to kind of show today is the situations where you kind of need to force a ditch. So I mean, I've heard a couple of different names of this, like fixed ditch, forced ditch, daylight ditch. I'll get into what kind of that means here in a little bit, but that's what we're going to focus on after we go over some of these changes. So in end conditions, when I took a look at everything, there's really two main types: if you have a ditch or if you don't have a ditch. So what I did is I went through kind of all of the different grading, like safety grading, clear zone grading, common, barrier. Kind of went through, and I was trying to figure out, how many different pieces each thing would make up, so that we can kind of have the same makeup of all the different types of end conditions here. So what I have on the screen is just a screenshot of what I came up with. So it's pretty close to what we've had. So when you have a ditch situation, we've always had this grade shoulder piece and a grade shoulder kind of component, and then there's a force slope component and a force slope point, and then there's a ditch component. So in some situations, this force slope point is really, how far out it goes is really based off of the clear zone. So I have a clear zone point in here. Now this clear zone point won't show up in every template. It's just kind of will be there on the ones that kind of say this should start at the ditch should start at your clear zone. So in those situations, then this point would be controlled off of the clear zone point, and then you can just type in your distance here. Now keep in mind, since doesn't have the shoulder piece on here. You know, right now this clear zone is controlled off of the branch. So you might want to move that to be controlled off of your shoulder point once you get your template set up. So, and in other situations, you know, you really don't need 3 kind of 4 slope pieces, if you will. So in those cases, you kind of have like a grade shoulder slope, and then you go straight into a ditch. So what I wanted to make sure that we handled just kind of automatically is if you're switching between those conditions for some reason, that the pieces just connect automatically. So for the situations where you only need 2 4 slopes, this point just moves to be right on top of the grade shoulder point. That way it's still there so that it'll connect to the right pieces if you ever switch to needing that down the line. So all it does is you just move this point to here. You'll see 2 points on top of each other sometimes, and that's okay. Then you obviously have your ditch, and so I didn't really like how we have ditch 1 or ditch and ditch 1 as a name. It's not really explaining it. So when you kind of do like point controls, you're like, well, do I choose ditch or ditch 1? So I thought, you know, maybe saying ditch inside and outside would be a little bit better. So I get if you're in the median that doesn't go with it. But I thought that would be a little bit more, I guess, explanatory with that. And then you have your back slope. This didn't really change. It's just one component. What you do see here is a height check. So this is another thing that could be optional. So it's just a point that's, so this is one component. It's not broken into 2. It's still one back slope component. But you can insert a point here and call it like your height check, and you can give your height of the ditch, that your minimum ditch requirement. And so what that kind of does is once your back slope falls lower than that minimum, then it won't solve anymore. So if you don't care about that, then you don't have to have it. So that's kind of the setup of with the ditch. Now some things behind the scenes that kind of shows is we made this change a while ago. The last point on all the end conditions, the override name is tie, to represent tie point. So we kind of want that for any end condition, that last point, we want the override name to be a tie, so that no matter what you do, you can at least get your tie-in point across all your end conditions to connect. And then you can use that kind of to start off your construction limits. And so we do have a section in our training guide on construction limits, and it kind of shows, you know, starting off with this tie point line that gets created and offsetting it. But that's another topic with the construction limits. But I just wanted to mention. So I'm going to kind of go over more behind the scenes stuff when we get over into ORD. But for right now, hopefully this is everyone understands what a feature name override is. Real quick, is all these points have point names, but there's also the ability to set a feature name override. And what that's saying is, so for the best way to describe it is, you know, if you had 2 different back slope conditions, maybe a 2-to-1 and then a 3-to-1. So you can't repeat a point name in the same template, so they'd have to be named differently. But say at one drop location, the 3-to-1 solves, and then the next drop location, a 2-to-1 solves. Those are 2 different points, but you still want those 2 to connect to each other. So the feature name override, if they're set the same, is what tells it, hey, these points need to connect to each other. Same thing for components. You can do override name for the components. So most of them have overrides. So if it's red, that means it's a feature name override. So all these ones that red text means there's an override name on it. And so you'll see that throughout all of our templates, that we have those consistent override names so that to ensure that everything connects to each other. So the other condition is without a ditch. And it's a little bit simpler. So again, we have a grade shoulder piece, a point, and a grade shoulder component. And then we have a force slope point. And so we have one force slope component, which is a little different from the ditch, where we had a force slope and then a force slope for the ditch. Right? So this is one piece with a point in the middle of it. And then you end with a tie point. So I just called it tie. So this, again, would match up with the last point, like the back slope point here. So this force slope point, sometimes you don't need it. So just like before, you would just slide it under your grade shoulder. And same thing with the clear zone. Sometimes the clear zone will control how far out this force slope goes or not. So that concept's still the same as with the ditches here. So it's pretty impossible to go from a ditch condition to a no ditch condition and actually have everything connect. So the idea here is that this piece, grade shoulder connects grade shoulder, and then this force slope piece would connect to this force slope piece. But then this kind of extra ditch piece, none of this will connect to anything. It's just this tie point would go to here for the no ditch condition. You'll probably still have to do some kind of end condition transition to smooth that out in that situation, but that's kind of what I wanted to standardize our end conditions to, so they would be consistent across all of them. So hopefully that makes sense. So really getting into more of this advanced topic of end conditions is this fixed ditch or daylight ditch. So it basically is going to force a ditch to be drawn in, and then that ditch will be, at least the minimum ditch height that you set. So it kind of just think of it as it's pushing the ditch down and out more until it could actually solve. So this kind of really comes into play when you're in a fill condition that has a ditch in it. So when that happens, your ditch might already be above your existing terrain. So there's no way to solve things. It's above everything. So you got to push that ditch down more so it actually can create a ditch. So it gets a little bit more complicated. And so I kind of have a workflow, and it'll make more sense as we demo it. But I had a quick screenshot of an example of what one of these templates would look like that would handle a fixed ditch situation. And so you'll see there's a bunch more do not construct points now. So really what it's doing behind the scenes is it's kind of coming down this way, and then there's some hidden components in here that's kind of drawing in that you don't see, and then it's searching down this way. And so this point is the point that will actually move to get lower, and then it comes back in on itself. So that's a real quick kind of high-level overview of what it's doing. Is it's just kind of going out there and coming back in on itself. So that makes it more complicated to edit. So I tried to set it up, and I'll show you here in a second of how to make edits to these easily and not kind of mess things up. So I'll jump over here in a second. But what I ended up doing was really adding a lot of labels to all my point conditions. So that way you can change your different, if you need to change like your force slope to something, you have to change that in a couple different areas to keep this working the way it needs to work. So the easiest way to do it is just go to the label and change the label. And so that's what this slide is kind of showing. So when you get into your template, you can go down to this active template tab, and then you have a whole bunch of stuff to deal with your current active template. If you go to parametric constraints, these are all the labels I have set. So you can easily double click on ones, like say the ditch force slope. If you double click on it, you'll get this dialog box that comes up, and it'll show you what the current value is. So that's a 3-to-1. So you can just type in a different value and hit OK, and it's going to change the those point constraints on whatever point that label exists. So this label exists in multiple places. So I'll demo that when we jump over, but the slide was my attempt to kind of show static so you can come back and look at it. So I'm going to jump over. We'll come back to this workflow. I'm going to jump over to ORD here. So I have ORD open. Oh. And this is just our training data set. I decided to use that. And so what I mean here is I just threw in a couple templates here. I'll show kind of what the standard one will look like. But just for like a fixed ditch common, if I just hit test to kind of show you first off what it's doing is as I draw, you know, when I'm solving above, then it's just, you know, searching up and finding a solve like what we're used to seeing. But once I get low enough to where I'd get below that minimum ditch requirement, it's switching to that fixed ditch, and it's now pushing my ditch out more so that it'll solve and actually kind of force that ditch in. So it'll just keep going down and down and down, and so I can change the percentage here. You kind of see that it still is going to solve. So I get, you know, what I get most, at least the past couple of weeks, I've gotten multiple questions about end conditions and what they were trying to do, and this template that I'm showing right now was exactly what they needed. So I think it was probably about 5 years ago now. I'm coming up on 5 years ago in SS4 at ORD, where Adam Koenig and the Office of Engineering up there in Prelim, he saw a Bentley video that was showing this, and so then we kind of made an ODOT version of it, and then he took it and he ran with it and he enhanced them a lot and made them for different conditions like safety and clear zone. And I always said I was going to get these into the standards. Well, it took a little longer than I thought it would, but I think these will definitely be helpful for you guys. So they don't have them released yet. I'm close to releasing them. I'm just needing to go through and fix up all the templates still. So if I come over here and I start kind of taking a look at those parametric constraints here, so like say for example the ditch force slope, you know, that is actually being set on 3 different points. So you can see how if you need to edit the slopes of this or the distances or things, it could start getting pretty complicated. And that's what I wanted to try to ease or avoid. So to make it easier, I added all these labels in. So if I click on this point, you'll see there are labels on these. So ditch force slope. So I can just come in here, and if I needed to change my ditch force slope, I can just double click on that. You know, right now it's just a 1 to 4, so maybe I want to do, you know, 1 to 3. Enter, and now everything kind of just works for you. So as you start using these templates and you need to make these kind of modifications, this is my recommendation to you guys, is to make sure you use these constraints, labels, whatever you want to call them. So you will notice that some of them I put the word negative, and that's just because the values between the way going this way and going this way were opposite. So, you know, this one it's positive 2, but this one's negative 2. So that's why that's there. I had to somehow make them different. So if you go to change the width or anything, if you see an equivalent negative, make sure you change both of them, because just changing one of them is not going to be good enough. So if I change this one, you kind of see how this now is off from this. So you need to make sure if there's a negative one, you also change that one. Okay. and I can always help out as well. But that is kind of the general way the fixed ditches are working, and the way to edit them to meet your needs. I am adding to our training guide as well, so I'll bring that up. So in our training guide for the section 500 non-templates, I'm adding this ODOT release end condition section, and I kind of go over the same thing, grading with ditches, and I have same screenshot and then a whole bunch of notes that are worth reading, and then I have a table too that kind of goes over the point, what the override name is, what constraints are kind of defaulted to it, what labels are on that, a little bit of description of it. Same thing with the components. So then without ditches, I have another table to kind of go over that and the labels that are on there. And then fixed ditch templates. And if you really want to get into it, all the points, the do not construct points and whatnot are in there, and what labels each one, and the notes kind of explain how those work. And then I have a section on modifying the ditch templates, which I just kind of showed kind of how it works. And then the last one I haven't shown yet is using the fixed ditch template. So I kind of have the workflow laid out here, and I also have it in my slideshow. So kind of the general workflow here is, first, set up your end condition with your fixed ditch template and push that along your alignment to kind of give you a starting point for that ditch profile. And then open up the profile of that ditch line, and you most likely want to make some modifications to that. So if there's like a bump or something, you still want to maintain that slope downstream or whatever. So you most likely will want to kind of almost draw in another profile. So the things to remember here is you're on your ditch profile, and the profile that's there now is showing you kind of that maximum elevation that ditch can be at for it to actually solve. So if you draw in your own profile and you go above what's there now, clearly that's not going to solve, so don't do that. And then on the opposite side, the deeper you go, the deeper you take that profile down, the more you're pushing that ditch out horizontally, and so the more you're going to be affected by how that existing terrain is. So just be aware of that. But ultimately, you're probably going to draw in your profile and complex it and give it a name, and then after that, I think I missed a step here. You want to project that onto your centerline alignment. So then that your ditch profile is now on your centerline alignment, and then after that, what we'll do is we'll actually switch our template back to like an equivalent non-fixed ditch version of it. So these fixed ditched templates are, as you see, are more complicated. They come back on itself. So as you start going on about your design, if you start adding a bunch of point controls or things or transitions and stuff, it isn't conducive to the way that the template is made for these fixed ditches, and you're going to start seeing problems like slopes not matching or holding. So really, the thought process is use this as a starting point to get that ditch profile, and then switch back to a regular template, and then point control your template to that ditch profile. So that's what I was going to kind of demo, and to make it more clear here. So let me save this. So I just open up the training data set. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch this template here. Let's go and just switch it to. So I already kind of pre-made this to make this process a little smoother. So this example one is just my regular end conditions with not a fixed ditch or anything. And then example 1 is my fixed ditched one. So one thing you do want to keep in mind is that you'll want this, your fore slopes and your back slopes to be the same between the two, because obviously if you have a different slope when you make your profile, you're going to have different conditions there. So you do want to keep, those the same. So I'm going to, I guess, first push through with a non-fixed ditch. What kind of happens? You'll probably see a whole bunch of gaps because it couldn't solve. So you see right there, right here, it didn't solve right here. I think I remember as we come into this, we're increasing the elevation thought. But, there's all these areas where it didn't solve, which, maybe in those areas we don't need a ditch. So depending on the situation, you might, some of these cases you do want to force a ditch through here. And you like, especially right here, you're probably going to push this out, for your culvert here. So what we'll do now is we'll create that fixed ditch template, which I already did. So here it is. I already made it. One thing that I wasn't quite happy with is when I have the left and right sides, the name came in adding the prefixes, but my parametric constraints, it just added a dash to denote the side. I don't know why I didn't do L dash or R dash. I'm still looking into that. So just know that, the non-dash means you're on your right side. The dash means you're on your left side. I don't know why I did that to me. I was expecting to see L dashes and R dashes, but so that's just letting you guys know that's where it's at right now. So it's set up. What we'll do now is we'll switch our template to use this, and you'll see that I'll have a ditch being forced in through here. So I'll do that. Come to my template, switch it to this. And you can see I forced the ditch through the situation, and you can see in order to do that it had to push it out more. And then you'll notice on the back end it's really short. This is that minimum ditch kind of requirement kicking in here. It has to at least do that minimum ditch. Okay. Alright, so we can come in and look at this profile in our ditch, which, here, let me turn off the 3D for a second. So I can come in here and open the profile. And so this is the ditch line that's drawn in there. So you can see, that there's some bumps in here. So maybe you don't want your ditch to come up right here. You want to keep coming down. So you can easily come to your geometry tools under the vertical section and draw in a ditch profile. Yeah, so the key is to not ever go, above, because clearly it won't solve then, because this is showing you that minimum required. And then the further below you go, which it's okay to do that. I mean, the further down you go, keep in mind that means to retain this fore slope, it's going to keep pushing it out more. So if your grading changes as you get out more, you could see some differences happening. But for the most part, that's probably good enough. I think what we've always done in the past, from my knowledge, I'm not an expert on this subject, I think we've always just done ditch profiles off our center line. So doing it this way, you're technically getting a little bit more exact, because when you project this onto your center line, this is a longer length on your profile of your ditch. When you project it, that length becomes shorter. So if you're looking at slopes, this is a steeper slope than the actual situation. But I think that's still fine though. So what you can do is you can draw in a profile, kind of smooth it out. It's most likely what you'll want to do, and then you would. So I'll just, for example, I'll just kind of draw on one here. Maybe you have pieces of it. You come in, complex it, and when you complex it, you can give it a feature definition. So there's one there for like a ditch line. Give it a name. Maybe this is what the right side, right ditch line. Then complex it. So now it should have a name and should have a name. All right. Should have a name and a feature. Okay, so now the next step would be to project that onto your center line. So my center line is in a different file, so I'll go and jump over to that file, which is this one, BK04. And I will add my attachment to my corridor file. So you see I brought in that attachment. So what I'll do is I'll actually open this profile, and there you can see, which they're working on Bentley with a bug on these levels not turning on automatically if they're in a reference on a profile. So just note that if you're in your profile view, just double check those levels, if you're not seeing what you think you should see. So there's this profile, and then there's the one I drew in. So all I'm really going to do here, is project it onto my center line, so that I can kind of keep that profile, because I'm going to be switching my template back to the regular one, and then I would lose that profile that I drew in. So I'll just come to my geometry tools. Under the profile creation, there is project profile to element. So be cautious of your feature definition. Make sure you set that. Kind of give it a name, and then you're going to choose the element to project. So if you just come here and choose this one, it's going to take the template one. If you draw in another one, then you have to come into the profile and physically select that to project it. So you select that, and then come over here and click what you want to project onto. And I'll just do both of them for demonstration purposes here. All right, so now I have that projected. If I open up my profile, my alignment, I should see them on there. They are on there. For some reason, everything is going to level default. I'll have to look into that. I did give it a feature. So now it's there. So now I can use that as a point control to bring my ditch back once I switch my template to a regular one. So we'll now jump back over to the corridor file. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to switch my template to not use a fixed ditch template. Again, the main reason is because this is so complicated and it comes in on itself. As you start doing other things in your design, you're probably going to run into problems if you stick to this one. You know, just things like point controls, and you know, if you have walls and you're doing some corridor clipping, or it just starts to get messy. I mean, if you don't do anything more than this, then you could probably get away with leaving your fixed ditches, but my kind of recommendation would be use this as a starting point to get your ditch profile and then switch it back. That way downstream you don't run into more problems. So switch that to this one. You'll see the ditch will go away. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a point control to have this ditch line follow that projected ditch profile that I made. So there's obviously a bunch of different ways to kick that off. I'll just click my corridor, come to my corridor creation tools. I'm going to add a point control. So in here, I can choose the station range. So for this demonstration, I'll just do the whole range. So I'm already locked to the start. So again, you can Alt to unlock or Alt to lock. So start, and then I'll just lock to the end. And then description, right, ditch. Okay, what point? Use this drop down, and it should be my right ditch inside point. That's left. Right ditch inside. Okay, so the mode. So it's important that we understand what we're doing here. So the mode is vertically. So we are going to vertically control this ditch line to our projected profile. So that means that our horizontal or our slope constraint that we have on that is going to stick. That's important because we don't want our force slope to not be honored. So don't do like a mode of both or horizontal. It's not going to achieve what we want. So vertically, we'll do a linear geometry, and then we will click on this, and we don't want to use the active profile. What we want, okay, I should see here. Let me double check. Let me open up this stupid level. Turn this off. Let me open this profile up. So again, there's that level display. Just turn on. Okay, so let's do that again. So come here, point control. Lock start, locked end, description. Point's going to be right ditch inside, vertical, linear geometry. I think I'm just going to go on here and this would, so I think I forgot to remove the rules from my profile, which is why it's not letting me. Yeah, so I missed a step. I gotta remove the rules on this so it's not a recursive. So let me jump back to there quickly and remove the rules. I had every intention of having videos recorded for this, but I ran out of time. Alright, so if I come here and select my and of course, because I didn't remove the rules and I switched my template. Okay, so don't do what I just did, because clearly you see what happens if you don't remove those rules. It's still tied to that ditch line, and when I switch my templates, it switched it back. So it was a great demonstration of what not to forget. So it also shows kind of design intent and how you could use rules to your advantage as you make changes to have things dynamically change. But in my case, it hurt me here. So. Alright, so I gotta switch this back to my other template. Now, switch back to my alignment file. Okay, so after you project it, make sure you come in here and you remove the rules. Or what will happen to you is what just happened to me. Okay, so don't forget that subtle but important step, guys. So now I will go back to my corridor file and we'll pretend like that didn't happen. So I'm going to switch my template off of the fixed ditch template. So I lost my ditch. Alright, so let me do this again. So we're going to do corridor. We're going to create a point control. I'm just going to have mine go the whole distance on a right ditch. The point is going to be right ditch inside, vertical, linear geometry. Now if you choose that, I should now see I have my other templates. I think this was the one that went the whole way. Hopefully it is. Alright, so vertical offset, we don't want to offset. We already have our ditch profile that we projected, so we wouldn't want to offset any more than that, because that's what we were trying to make our ditch match to, right? So we'll leave those at zeros. And it should process, and I must have chosen the wrong named dit profile. So if I come into my corridor objects, I'll just look at my corridor. under point controls. I'm assuming I was probably supposed to choose this one. So don't forget what you named your stuff. That'd be helpful too. Okay, so now you see I got my ditch in there. So I definitely kind of made some blunders in there, but I guess that could help explain what's going on here. So you see there's that ditch, and so really to recap that, we are using a template to give us kind of the starting point to create a ditch profile. And then we're going to kind of make our modifications as needed and then project that onto our center line and remove the rules. That way it'll stay. And then we'll switch our template back, and then we'll do a point control to control that ditch about vertically to our ditch profile. And that way you'll see that our slope, our foreslope, doesn't get destroyed in that process, so we keep our foreslope to what we wanted it to be. Alright, so that was kind of the most I was really going to show today. I'm kind of open it up to questions now. Hopefully that made sense. Again, sorry for getting some steps there, but does anyone have any kind of questions on that? I think this will definitely help a lot of people, I think, when they get into these situations. I know like 2 people in the past 2 weeks, this is exactly what they needed, and they're trying to do a bunch of different things, and when I gave them this template, it definitely made things easier. So, any questions? I see Eric has been chatting. Which I think we muted everybody, so you guys can just click on your name and unmute you if you are trying to talk, or you can IM. So for workflow, would you do daylight ditch first or simple template? So what I did first when I started here, I threw that simple template in there just to kind of show you what my current situation was, where especially right here, clearly I wasn't solving for a ditch because I was, my template was already above existing, so I was trying to solve upwards when it was already above the terrain. If you already know you're in that situation, you can just start off with your fixed ditch template. If you know you're putting a ditch through somewhere. So it really depends on the situation. You could start off with a regular one, and then maybe in certain areas, just maybe in those areas you need the fixed ditch, and then you just kind of do that workflow just for those areas that you need. That will work too. So it's not really, I guess, it doesn't matter. It's up to you on that situation. Are these templates currently in ORD and ready for use, or do we need to wait for an update? So I have the templates, and it's just real quick. If I open, so they haven't been released yet. Mainly as for the first part of this the demonstration, where I was talking about kind of fixing all the existing templates up so that they all match up. That's why it has been released yet. We're still going through and cleaning up so they are all like consistent. But you'll see like inside like safety grading, you'll see there's a fixed ditch folder, and that's really refined. So some of these get more complicated, like especially the safety grading, because depending on your back slope, the ditch gets wider. So this one like is a combination of your safety. And then you have the shallow and the medium fill all in one. So as you get to the fixed ditch, it's only set up for one slope. So if you needed a different slope, make sure you change that, and you can use the parametric constraints to change that so that it doesn't break it. But as you change those, don't forget, your ditch width is dependent on the slope. So don't forget about that kind of situation. You can see if I get like you kind of see if I come in here, you see that shallow kicking into. So the fixed dish templates are done. You'll see some in like safety and clear zone. There's in there. They're in common and barrier grading too. So they're there, but what we're doing is kind of going through these ones and making those, like if it was missing that point, adding it in there, and so that and then making sure the labels are there and across all of them as well. So I had Matt working on that the other day. So I think these will be out here soon. If you guys need them before, then just let me know, and I can get them to you. But yeah, these will be coming soon, but not officially released yet. Hopefully soon. Just want to clean them up a little bit more. But the fixed ditches are done. It's just cleaning up the other ones to match with what I said in the beginning. So the help document this help document is our design training, section 502 on templates. Again, I haven't released it yet, but I will. So that's, you can go to the wiki page, you can go to the standards. They're all there. It's kind of spread out. So like if I go to the wiki page. So under training guides, design training, there's section 500 template. So right now this doesn't have the update to it, but that's one way to get to it. You can also find this in our standards too, inside ProjectWise. But this might be the easiest way to get to it. You just click on that to open the document. I think that was everything. Anything else? So after this, give us a day or two. We will get this recording posted on that wiki page. Right here under CAD webinars. You'll see there's the first two. So if anyone missed it, or you want to come back as a reference point, it'll be up there in a couple of days. And then if you need these templates before I get them released, just let me know. I can get them out to you early. But they will be out there soon. So hopefully you guys found this informative. We'll keep going. Mark just signed me separately. Another thing is the ORD update to 2020 Release 1. We are very close to pushing that out to everyone. So you'll be able to place a cell without it crashing. So that's a huge plus. Same thing with feature name overrides. There's a ton of fixes. So we're going to put that in the push to switch everyone to SS10. You're also going to get updated to ORD 2020 Release 1. And then you'll see that it's running a lot smoother. We had, I think, a couple people testing it. We've just been going back and forth with IT to get the build actually working for a push to everyone. So that is very close. And when that happens, the SS10 update, just a quick note, which we'll send out more on this. For SS10, the installation path changes. So that means your shortcuts for launching like O.CAD and SS4 won't work anymore. So you have to recreate shortcuts. You can use, I already have them created and they're in the CAD tray, which I'll show you how to get to that in incoming information, upcoming information, or you can run the client configuration tool. Again, it'll respit out those shortcuts for you, but it's not something I can fix because it's like the installation location, and so you guys might have put it to your desktop, you might have pinned it somewhere. It's all over the place, but since the installation path changed, those will break when that push comes out, and we will have further guidance. And before we actually release the push, we will send out emails to CAD managers, and we'll try to make sure everyone's aware of that. It's just a shortcut link. It's nothing huge. It's just because the installation path changed, that shortcut won't know how to launch Geopack anymore. So that is coming. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks you'll see that. So keep an eye out on emails for that, for more information on the shortcut thing. But on the ORD side, we will be going to the latest release of ORD at the same time. So I think with that, I'll end today's webinar. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. But hopefully everyone's staying safe and healthy out there. And hopefully they're not having too many technical problems working from home. So I'll see you guys next month.